Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on King's Crown glassware. You know, that thumbprint pattern you see everywhere.
Oh, yeah, absolutely iconic.
Yeah.
Especially if you're into mid-century stuff or depression glass.
Exactly. And we're digging into it thanks to a really helpful guide from Jewelry Bubble, King's Crown Glassware Guide, History and Collecting Tips.
It's a great resource, really lays out the story.
So our mission today, basically, is to get the whole picture. The history, how you can actually spot the real deal, different eras, and, why people are still so crazy about collecting it.
Right, because it's more than just glass, isn't it? It's like holding a piece of American design history. Over 100 years of it.
130 years, apparently, which is pretty amazing for a pattern. Okay, so
Yeah.
the guide starts way back, 1890, Adams & Co.
Correct. And it wasn't even called King's Crown then. It was XLCR.
Excelsior, like Excelsior.
Exactly. Short for Excelsior. And those early pieces, they were different.
How so? What were they like?
Well, for starters, they were heavy, thick glass. And they often had this deep ruby staining, usually just on the top part.
Okay, so not all over color like you might see now.
Right. And the thumbprints themselves, 9 of them, rounded, they had this sort of zigzag border around them. Very distinct, kind of Victorian feel almost.
Huh. That ruby staining, was that like painted on or part of the glass?
It was a staining process, yeah. A thin layer of ruby color applied to the surface, often just concentrated near the rim or upper section, created a nice contrast.
Gotcha. So quite different from the later stuff. Then Adams & Co. gets acquired in 1892 by U.S. Glass Co. Things started changing then.
They did. U.S. Glass seemed to want to, broaden its appeal. They started introducing more colors, amber, blue, green, gave people more options. And the name changed, too. For a bit, in 1943, it was actually called Dubonnet.
Dubonnet, really?
Yeah. Then finally, in 1952, they landed on King's Crown. That's the name that stuck.
King's Crown. Okay. So more colors, a new name.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, they also started adding a few more decorative touches. Sometimes you'll see bands of ruby or blue color, or even like little floral engravings on some pieces.
Trying to keep up with changing tastes, I guess.
Probably. Styles were evolving, moving away from that heavier Victorian look. More options, more embellishments likely appealed to more people.
Right. Now, this next part sounds crucial. Indiana Glass Company comes in around 1959. The guide calls their impact a revolution. That's a strong word.
It really fits, though,
Yeah.
because Indiana Glass, they completely changed the game. They ditched the staining altogether
Oh, okay.
and started making pieces in solid colors. Like the whole piece was one color. That was a huge shift from that two-tone look.
So that's where we start seeing the really bright, solid pieces.
Exactly. And they kept the rounded thumbprints, which is super important because another company, Tiffin, made a similar pattern, but theirs had oval thumbprints.
Ah, okay. Round versus oval. Good distinction.
And this new solid color look just clicked with that whole mid-century modern thing that was taking off. Bold, simple, perfect for those minimalist homes.
And the colors. The Jewelry Bubble article mentions bright yellow specifically. They even show off their own yellow set. That just screams mid-century, doesn't it?
Totally. That bright, sunny yellow. And if you see that solid yellow, that's a huge clue you're looking at Indiana Glass from that 59 to 71 period.
Okay, so yellow, Indiana Glass era. Good tip.
While the earlier stuff leaned heavily on ruby red, that consistent solid yellow is very much their signature for this pattern.
And after Indiana Glass stopped in 71, the pattern didn't just disappear, right?
No, it kept going for a while. From 71 to about 1985, it was produced under the name Colony Crown.
Colony Crown. Was it different again?
Yeah, the focus seemed to shift a bit more towards practical tableware,
Yeah.
everyday stuff, maybe streamlining production a bit, focusing on function as tastes changed again in the 70s.
Makes sense. Less purely decorative, maybe?
Seems that way. More focused on dinnerware sets and things like that.
Okay, so that's the timeline. XLCR, then US Glass with Dubonnet, and finally King's Crown, then the big Indiana Glass Revolution, and finishing with Colony Crown. That history really helps frame things.
Definite. Understanding the evolution is key.
So let's get practical for, anyone listening who might find a piece. How do you tell them apart? Especially that Indiana Glass stuff everyone seems to want. The guide had some great tips.
Yeah, this is where it gets fun for collectors. Okay, first clue. The thumbprint shape. We mentioned it, but really look closely. Is it perfectly round, like you just press your thumb straight down?
Okay.
What's likely Indiana? Or is it slightly stretched, more oval? That points towards Tiffin. It's a subtle but consistent difference.
Right. What else? The rim.
Yep, the rim style. Indiana pieces usually have a straight, sort of vertical rim. Tiffin rims often flare out a little at the top.
Tube versus flared. Got it.
And then color application. We talked about Indiana being solid color all the way through. Whereas Tiffin and the older U.S. glass pieces, you'll see those stained bands. Or the color might just be on the top part, not uniform throughout the glass itself.
Okay, so solid color points strongly to Indiana. Makes sense.
And there's actually a physical difference. You can sometimes feel or see mold seams.
Ah, the lines from where the glass mold came together.
Exactly. If you look carefully, Indiana glass pieces usually have just 2 mold seams.
2 seams. Okay.
Tiffin pieces, they typically have 3.
3 seams for Tiffin. Wow, okay, that's quite specific.
It's a good check.
Yeah.
And finally, just the common colors. Think bright yellow, amber, clear crystal. Those are classic Indiana.
Right.
Ruby red, cranberries, maybe some blues. Those are more typical of Tiffin or the earlier U.S. glass era.
And that yellow set, the Jewelry Bubble Guide, shows straight sides, round thumbprints, solid yellow. That's like the textbook Indiana glass example then.
Precisely. It ticks all the boxes for classic Indiana.
This is super helpful. Like
Now,
actual things you can look for if you're out hunting. Okay, let's hit some common questions collectors have. Authentication is always a big one. Besides the visual cues, how can you be more sure?
well, checking those mold seams, the 2 versus 3 is a really good start.
Okay.
And the guide mentions something cool about Indiana glass made after 1959 because they use manganese in the glass mix.
Manganese. Okay.
These pieces often glow under UV light, like a black light.
No kidding. They fluoresce.
Yeah, it's a neat trick. But don't rely only on that. And don't expect to find maker's marks easily.
Oh, no IGC stamp or anything.
It's actually pretty rare to find clear markings like IGC for Indiana Glass Company or Lancaster from another company involved briefly. So just because there's no mark doesn't mean it's not genuine. You got to use all the clues.
Right. Piece it all together. Okay. And back to that yellow. We know it's Indiana, but why is it so significant? The guide really flags it.
Yeah, that solid yellow is like a collector's beacon.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a color they made. Jewelry Bubble points out it was exclusively made by Indiana Glass during that specific 1959-1971 window.
Ah, okay. Only them, only then.
Right. And it's not just rare. It just perfectly captures that mid-century vibe, that bold, optimistic look. It looks amazing with atomic era decor. People really seek it out for that reason.
So if you spot that solid, vibrant yellow, chances are good it's Indiana and it's probably pretty desirable.
Very likely, yes.
Okay, now say you're lucky enough to own some King's Crown. How do you take care of it? Keep it looking good.
Good question. Care is important. Definitely hand wash these pieces.
Now dishwasher.
No, definitely not. The heat and harsh detergents can really mess up any iridescent finish some pieces might have and just be generally tough on old glass.
Okay, hand wash only. What about storing them?
Store them upright, not stacked if you can help it.
Yeah.
And maybe put little felt pads or even just paper towels between pieces if they have to touch, just to prevent chipping or scratching.
Good idea.
And one more thing, try to keep them out of direct sunlight for long periods. UV rays can actually cause some colors to fade over time.
Ah, sunlight fading. Didn't think of that. Good tips. So, okay, we know how to find it, how to care for it, but why collect it? What's the big draw beyond just, liking how it looks?
Well, there are a couple of angles. For some people, there is an investment aspect.
Really?
Yeah. The Jewelry Bubble Guide actually mentions that complete sets can appreciate, maybe around 8 to 12% per year, which isn't bad.
Wow, 8 to 12%? That's actually pretty decent for collectibles.
It can be. And those rarer colors we talked about, like the yellow, or there's also a less common purple, those can fetch prices maybe 3 times higher than the more common colors.
3 times. Okay, so rarity definitely plays a big part in value.
Absolutely. But honestly, for most people, I think it's more than just money.
Yeah. What else?
It's about using them. Imagine setting your table with these. A pitcher, the matching goblets.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you mix it with some colorful Fiesta ware or like Franciscan Starburst plates. Talk about a retro vibe.
Oh, yeah, I can picture that. Very cool.
Or picture them on a vintage bar cart. Perfect for serving old school cocktails, right?
Totally. Mad Men style.
Exactly. Or even just displayed. The guide suggests putting them in a lighted china cabinet where you can really see the color and the pattern shine. It's about bringing that history and style into your home.
I love that. It's not just about owning things, but integrating that vintage feel into how you live.
Precisely. It connects you to that whole design aesthetic, the craftsmanship.
Yeah.
It's tangible history.
So wrapping up our deep dive here, we've traced this incredible 130-year journey. From XLCR's heavy, ruby-stained beginnings
through U.S. Glass's expansions and name
to
change,
that really pivotal Indiana Glass era with the solid colors.
and finally Colony Crown's more practical focus.
And the key takeaways for identifying that sought-after Indiana Glass seem to be, look for those round thumbprints.
Those straight rims.
That solid all the way through color, especially yellow.
And if you can check those two mold seams.
Right. Knowing those differences really helps you know what you're looking at.
Definitely empowers you, whether you're already collecting or just getting curious about vintage glass.
So maybe the next time you're browsing an antique store, or even just looking at glassware someone has, you'll see it a bit differently. Think about the journey that pattern might have taken. It's more than just its value. It's a little window into design history, into how things were made. It might make you appreciate all sorts of everyday objects in a new light. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into King